Hello and welcome to an episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Wednesday, November 23rd. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Wednesday, November 23rd here today. We are one day out from Thanksgiving. As tomorrow we have Thanksgiving. Looking forward to it. Obviously always a great time of year as the holiday season officially starts tomorrow with Thanksgiving and then obviously Christmas and New Year's and all that following here in a little, about a month now, following, after Thanksgiving. So really looking forward to it. Hopefully everybody out there has a good day tomorrow. A lot to get to today. You'll have 3 games on tomorrow. We'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to start off today's podcast by talking about Zach Wilson and the breaking news that came out of Florham Park today, as the New York Jets have benched Zach Wilson, and they didn't just bench Zach Wilson. They have demoted him, I guess you could say, to quarterback 3, to QB 3. So Mike White will be QB 1, Joe Flacco will be the backup, and Zach Wilson will be a healthy scratch this week for the New York Jets. So there is no chance he even plays. And I mean, man, oh man, I am shocked. I am surprised. It was the right move. I am happy that they did this. But man, oh man, I was shocked to hear today that he would be inactive. So we'll get to that to start, and then we'll get to our NFL Thanksgiving game picks for tomorrow, as I won't be doing a podcast tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be enjoying Thanksgiving with friends and family, so looking forward to that. We got a lot of football on tomorrow, 3 big games, Bills, Lions, Giants, Cowboys, and then the nightcap will be the Vikings, Patriots, so looking forward to that, and a lot of sports coming up this weekend. So looking forward to all of it. Should be a good weekend. Obviously, I'll be back on Friday with my rest of my NFL game picks, but you'll have 3 games on tomorrow, which should be good. Nets are coming off an embarrassing performance last night in Philly. Last night kind of shows us all why this team isn't going anywhere. I think that's the bottom line. I think we all agree. Last night shows us all why the Brooklyn Nets aren't going anywhere and why this team needs to be blown up and they need to restart. Bottom line, that's it. Because last night was embarrassing, 0 effort. No rebounding, terrible shooting. Defensively, there was some breakdowns, just no effort. Like there was no energy or drive from the Brooklyn Nets last night. It was embarrassing. You go into a road environment that you know is going to be hostile with Ben Simmons. You go into a big game. You go into a game against a Sixers team that is missing Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. They're 3 best players. No debate. Missing them. And you still get blown out. Embarrassing loss by the Brooklyn Nets last night. So luckily, the Rangers got the win last night against the Kings. They'll be back tonight for a second half of back-to-back against the Ducks. And the Nets as well will be on the second half of the back-to-back against the Raptors. So a lot of basketball and hockey going on right now. Knicks will be off tonight as they would be back in action on Friday as they will host the Portland Trailblazers at the Garden, as obviously the NHL and NBA all get a universal day off tomorrow on Thanksgiving. So, a lot to get to today. With all that being said, this is the Bubbs on Sports podcast, and let's get into it. So, massive news coming out today in the world from the New York Jets coming out of Florham Park. Really not even just big Jets news. This is big NFL news, as the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 draft, Zach Wilson, has been benched. Robert Saleh confirmed it today in his press conference, and not only has Zach Wilson been benched, as I mentioned in the open, but to say it again because I can't believe this. Look, we all think that it was best for Zach Wilson to, and I got to word all this properly because I don't want to sound like we all wanted to see Zach Wilson fail. That is not the case. We all want to see Zach Wilson work out, and still we hope that this benching can hopefully lead to him coming back, gaining knowledge, just stepping back from the game, watching from a different perspective, and when he comes back into the fold and comes back into the mix, we all hope he's a different player. This isn't, necessarily the end of Zach Wilson. Now, if Mike White goes out there and balls out and we go 5-2 in the next 7 games and he leads us to an AFC championship and all that great stuff, well, then there's that conversation. But this isn't necessarily the end. So I want to make sure that people understand what I'm saying is it had to be done. There was no choice. You couldn't possibly go out there this week and start Zach Wilson after the comments he made on Sunday and after the performance he had on Sunday, and which he's had a lot of those performances, especially against the Patriots in the 4 career games he's played against them. Although one of them, obviously, he got hurt, which was actually the debut of Mike White, but that's besides the point. This had to be done. This had to be done. Zach Wilson had to be benched because he was losing the respect of the locker room. You know, Robert Saleh said it today that there's not so much hate in the locker room, but there is a level of frustration at Zach Wilson for the way he handled that press conference. And I will say this, if Zach Wilson never stood up there at the podium and made the excuses and didn't take accountability that he did, we wouldn't be in this position right now. We wouldn't be. We wouldn't be, because I think it's really set the team over the edge was the fact of the comments that he made. And you had to bench him. Had to. Because he was playing like a bottom 5 quarterback in football. There is some statistical categories that he has right now that's worse in the NFL. We're not talking about a guy that's struggling. We're talking about a guy that looks like the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. And that's just the blatant reality. There's no sugarcoating that. Had to be done. And I'm very, very refreshed to finally see that the New York Jets have the right guy in charge in Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas to make this move, hold him accountable, and do what's best for the team. Again, it's about all 53 on the roster. Not just one guy. It's about everybody else. It's about the other 52, not just about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was clearly not playing well. He was letting this team down. We are watching one of the greatest defenses in Jets history right now. Now, I never personally witnessed the sack exchange. Obviously, I wasn't alive. I really didn't witness much of the Rex Ryan defenses. I know a lot more about them because I've seen a lot more highlights, and, you know, they've obviously been brought up a lot more throughout the past decade. But this defense is the best defense I've ever seen, and they've been going out and dominating week in and week out, and it's been the offense that's been holding this team back. So it had to be done, and what a move by Saleh and Douglas to make this. And clearly guys in the locker room were frustrated because, again, Saleh meets every week with, I shouldn't say team captains, but he meets every week with the guys on the roster. You know, some of the veterans. Like, I'm sure C.J. Mosley's in that meeting. You know, he meets with, I'm sure Justin Hardy's in that meeting, a leader. He meets with a ton of guys. I don't know if it's all the captains because Zach Wilson be in that meeting. I don't think it is. I think it's just kind of the team leaders. I wouldn't be surprised if Quan Alexander's in that meeting. DJ Reed, Mosley, I bet you probably, I lost his, but who cares? Who cares who's in the meeting? Justin Hardy, that was the other guy. He's probably in the meeting. It's probably about 4 or 5 guys. And they meet every week to discuss, you know, the team, what the players are feeling, and stuff like that. That's what Saleh does. There had to be something in that meeting where Zach Wilson was brought up and either whoever it was said something about him, because we heard the reports after Sunday that there was guys in that locker room that were clearly frustrated with the way Zach Wilson was walking around, acting like he wasn't the problem and acting like he didn't blow the game. So this was needed. And again, as Saleh said, it isn't so much the nail in the coffin, but it's kind of a heads up to Zach, like, look, nobody cares that you were the 2nd overall pick. Nobody cares. That nobody cares. You know, past Jets regimes, they would have said, oh, number 2 overall pick, give him time. No, that's not the case anymore, because this team, this coaching staff, this organization clearly realizes that there is a hole at quarterback, clearly realizes that this offense is holding the defense back, which has been amazing this year. And whenever you get a chance to win now, you got to go ahead and do it, because we don't know what next year is going to bring. We don't know if this defense is going to be as dominant as it is right now next season. We really don't. You just never know. Right? So that's why whenever you get an opportunity to win, we're 6-4, we're in a playoff race right now. You know, you got to find a way to get in. You got to find a way to make the adjustments necessary to have a successful final 7 games and get to the postseason. And that's clearly benching Zach Wilson, because he wasn't doing anything. And again, I'm sick and tired of the excuses, too. I'm sick and tired of the excuses of, oh, you know, good defenses. Zach Wilson's struggles was not because of the opposing team's defenses. It was not. Bad throws, missing wide open Braxton Berrios. Denzel Mims, who's 6'4", 6'5", I don't even know, missing him. Missing Conklin wide open. Mims was wide open in the end zone, didn't even throw it to him. His footwork's terrible. He's not stepping up in the pocket. He's obviously not confident. He's lacking confidence. He doesn't trust his abilities. And it's clear. It's clear as day. He looks lost out there. Again, 9 completions, 10 punts. And his post-game press conference was even worse. So, I definitely agree with this move. And it is even more, as I've mentioned, it's even more of a power move. Because you now completely inactivate Zach Wilson. So Zach Wilson will be on the sideline on Sunday in probably some joggers and a sweatshirt. And he'll be looking, and he'll have a clipboard, right? And that's just a good old joke, but he'll be watching from the sidelines. And that might be the best. This might be the best thing that could happen to Zach Wilson, because I'll tell you why. There is a ton of quarterbacks in the NFL. There's a lot of players in the NFL that have been benched. A lot of players. I mean, Damian Woody, former Jet, he got benched. What was it? I think 6 games into his career, I think it was. He got benched, and he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Geno Smith. Now, I know it's a little different story because he's coming on late. It wasn't like he got benched, and when he came back, he was much better. But he got benched, struggled for a while, and now he's all of a sudden back. But he's another guy. He got benched. And look what Geno Smith's doing now. When things like that, Geno Smith got benched, became a backup, all that stuff. Now he's starting, and look what he's doing. Now, that's not always the case. Some guys get benched, and they're simply just not good enough. But a lot of times you see guys get benched, whether they sit the sideline for the rest of the year, whether they sit the sideline until they have to go back in maybe because of injury, or whether the coaching staff just feels like they're ready. They come back out, and there's been believe me, there's been a lot of times where guys get benched and they come back out and they're the same player. But there's also players that have been benched and come out and they play much better, and they're a lot better, and they're a different player. So we'll see what happens with Zach Wilson. Now, here's my thing is, look, Mike White's a guy that can clearly run the offense. And again, I'm not committing to whether or not, Saleh's not going to stand up there. Let's just tell it like it is. Saleh's not going to stand up there and say, oh yeah, Zach Wilson's career as a New York Jets done. The bottom line is this. If Mike White plays well and they're winning, Zach Wilson's not going to see the field. That's just the bottom line. Now, if Mike White struggles and they're still not getting the same production, and maybe they go back to Zach, because they can always go back to Zach Wilson, right? Maybe then they go back to him, then there's a chance. But it really, to me, it all depends on how Mike White's playing. Because you cannot, let's just say this. Now, if Mike White's struggling and they feel like, Zach Wilson, all right, giving you another chance. We've seen some good things in practice. You're working on things. That's another thing, too. A lot of people have heard rumors that, there's been rumors that he hasn't been playing well in practice. And Garrett Wilson kind of hinted to that in his press conference postgame on Sunday, that, practice has been an issue, like not naming Wilson, but it shows you that the practice hasn't been very good. Like there's been struggles in practice, and now it's leaking in the games, which is the absolute last thing you want. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think, I'm glad Mike White's starting. I did not want to see Joe Flacco, and let's just be honest. Chris Streveler's a pipe dream. Okay, he's a pipe dream. The only way Chris Streveler plays is if there is injury. Even then, they would probably pick up another quarterback, which you obviously don't want to see happen. But Chris Streveler's a pipe dream. So the people out there that want to see Chris Streveler play, I'm sorry. This isn't the right team for you. But I'm glad they went with Mike White. I'm glad they didn't go to Flacco. I think I felt pretty good about them going to Mike White because they did promote him to be the backup quarterback, and that was about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And I think that too was kind of a hint towards Zach saying, "Look, you gotta step up your game a little bit." And now it's gone to the point where he's not, and you had to do this again because again, I didn't want to see Zach Wilson out there on Sunday struggle, Jets fall down early, and then have to put Mike White in a situation where he's down and now he's got to be playing trailing. And now, now that might force him into mistakes, and now and you can't lose this week. You got to beat Chicago. They're 3-8. They very well might be without Justin Fields. There's a good chance they're starting Trevor Siemian. Even with Justin Fields, I say we have the advantage because our defense is so lethal. I understand Justin Fields has been playing great, but our defense is, top notch. So, there's also that perspective you got to look at it as. So, I'm glad what they won with Mike White, and he's a guy too. And again, there's so many levels to this. So many levels. I hope I sound organized. I know there's so many different levels to it. Some people say it might be coaching. Look, we've seen this system work. Josh Johnson looked good in this system. Mike White last year in the handful of games he played, he looked good in the system. Even Joe Flacco, and I understand we all crush Flacco a lot, even he looked okay. The reason why we all crush Flacco is because he's not mobile. He's a statue in the pocket. He can't move. Now, Mike White, he doesn't have Zach's mobility. He's not Justin Fields. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he's a whole lot more mobile than Joe Flacco. He's your average mobile quarterback. There's not going to be design runs for him, but if it's a 3rd down and 5 and he sees green grass, he might run it. If you need a yard or two, he's more than capable. He can roll out of the pocket. He could throw on the run. Joe Flacco can't do that. So that's the the advantage you give Mike White. He's also young, and again, he played 2 games. He played 4 games last year total. He appeared in 4 games. He only played 2. And one of those games, too, was against Buffalo. And everybody last year against Buffalo struggled because their defense was so good, right? So you also got to look at that side of it. I'm not making excuses, but I'm just saying for a guy with less weapons around him, it was a worse roster around Mike White. You give him more talent now, he could do some things. And again, you give him tight ends. He spreads the ball around too. We saw that last year. He spreads the ball around. He takes what the defense is giving him. He plays within the offense. Mike White's not going to go out there and light it up for 300 yards. You don't need to in this offense. But you can't go out there and go for 9 of 22, 77 yards and average 2.77 inches per play in the second half. You can't do that. So I'm glad they go with Mike White. I believe in Mike White. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I do feel that this Jet team, that this organization does feel like Mike White's good, and that's why they've been holding off on playing him, because there are some rumors that they think that Mike White's better than Zach Wilson, which I don't fully disagree with, because even when Mike White was playing well, that's when they brought in Flacco, and it's like, all right, now they're going to purposely force Mike White out of here. It's like, it didn't make much sense, So, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out, but the New York Jets bench Zach, and again, he wasn't making progress either. No progress. That's another thing too that I think a lot of people gotta realize. We went into this year, we wanted to see progress. We haven't seen any of it, and that's a problem. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm glad they benched him. It had to be done, and now it's Mike White's turn. And again, like I said, Robert Saleh could say whatever he wants about this. Isn't the nail in the coffin? Look, if Mike White's playing well and they're winning, you're not going to see Zach Wilson. Okay. Now, if Mike White goes out there, and let's say he struggles this week, struggles next week, I don't really know if they'll turn to Flacco. They might go with Wilson again. Let's say 3 weeks in, Mike White's, they're 0-3, or they're 1-2. Mike White's not playing great in the next 3 weeks, right? Maybe then they turn back to Zach. But that's only if Mike White struggles. Look, if Mike White's playing well, this is it for Zach then. Because if he plays well, and that's the bottom line. It's going to be however Mike White does. If Mike White plays well and they go to the playoffs and Mike White works some magic, he's your quarterback then. And you won't even need to address in the offseason if he goes hot. Let's say, like I said earlier on, if he goes 5-2 and we finish the year 11-7, and let's say he leads us to the AFC Championship game, or maybe more realistic, we win a wild card round, we get to the divisional round. If Mike White does all that and he's playing well and he's playing a high level and statistically he's putting up good numbers, there's a good chance he's your quarterback next year. And whatever, Zach Wilson then goes into the offseason with, as a big question mark. And what do you do with him? Well, we'll see. That's way down the road now, right? We got to focus game by game. And then Saleh kind of avoided that question. We kind of got to focus game by game, right? That's how I see it. And you can't do that to a locker room. If Mike White's playing well and they're winning, you can't do that to a locker room. You just can't. Nor do I think the Jets would do that because they're winning. That's how I see it. So I wanted to compare this too. Again, Zach's not making progress. He has the same completion percentage as he had last year. But these were through the first 20 career starts with the Jets. Sam Darnold versus Zach Wilson. And it's pretty alarming because Zach Wilson's got better talent. And I know some people question the coaching, and I do too. But he has better coaching. Adam Gase is one of the worst coaches in NFL history, okay? Sam Darnold had Adam Gase. Zach Wilson might not have the best coaching ever, but it sure is better than Adam Gase. And we all know that these weapons are a lot better than what Sam Darnold was working with in his 3-year career. So first 20 games with the New York Jets, Sam Darnold was 7-13, had touchdown to interception, 28 touchdowns, 25 picks, a QB rating of 78.9, and a complete percentage of 59.7. Now Zach Wilson, his win-loss record is 8-12, touchdown to interception ratio, 13 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, QB rating of 70.7, and a complete percentage of 55.6. So Zach Wilson has the better record. Darnold has more touchdowns. Zach has less interceptions. Darnold has a higher QBR. He also has a higher completion percentage. So Darnold, if you're looking at the categories, a little better. He was actually better than Zach through the first 20 games of his career. And again, that was with less talent. And that's the most concerning part. Zach's got more talent, and yet here he is putting up numbers similar to Sam Darnold. Now, I will tell you this. Darnold threw touchdowns. He would throw touchdowns. He just threw a ton of picks. He turned the ball over a lot. His completion percentage was bad. He threw touchdowns, though. Part of it, I will admit, give a little leeway back, to maybe be a little fair. The Jets were running with Frank Gore and Le'Veon Bell for that 1 year they didn't use the running backs properly. Zach Wilson does have, I guess, less chances to throw a touchdown, but, I mean, that's not even an excuse. He's thrown 13 touchdowns in 20 games. That's poor. He's thrown 16 interceptions in 20 games. That's bad. Now, Darnold did throw 25 interceptions in 20 games. I'm not denying that, but it's an interesting conversation to have because, again, you look at the situation Sam Darnold was in, right? And you look at the situation Zach Wilson's in. Zach Wilson's situation's 10 times better in terms of coaching, in terms of talent. And again, you could say that the coaching's questionable, and I don't fully disagree because Mike LaFleur, he does make some questionable decisions sometimes with play calling, but nobody is worse than Adam Gase. Let's just be honest here, right? Let's just be honest here. So it just shows he's not making progress. He had to be benched. It's the right move. I like the move. Bring on Mike White. Accountability is huge in this. Mike White's got the respect of the locker room, and let's see if Mike White can work some magic. Let's see it. Let's see it. I mean, if he can work some magic and take us to the playoffs and do great things, boom, Mike White, White Lightning, you got something. So we'll see. Mike White, it's your turn. It's your chance. You got an opportunity. I believe in Mike White. I do. I trust him because he showed a lot of positives last year. He did. Small sample size, 2 full games, 4 total games played. One of them he got hurt. The other one, he came in for Zach, who got hurt against New England, obviously, up in Foxborough, which was also coming out of the bye week. So give him a chance. He deserves it. He's got the respect of the locker room. He showed us some promise last year. He showed that the offense can work. He spreads the ball around. Let's see it, Mike. Let's see it. Let's see it. Go out there and play well and work within the offense, and let's win some football games. So here we stand, 6-4. And again, more important, winning or more important, winning or trying to see progression out of your franchise quarterback. Winning's more important. At the end of the day, all that matters in this league is winning. It's a business, and that's the bottom line. Period. That's the end of it. So host Chicago this weekend. 4.5-point favorites. The Jets are. So they're actually favorites in this game. And, Mike White will get his opportunity again in the black uniforms to go out there and dominate. So hopefully we see a more energized offense led by Mike White here. All right, so now we move on to the Thanksgiving Day games in the NFL. Tomorrow is obviously always an exciting day in the NFL as you got the Thanksgiving Day games. First game up on tap tomorrow will be the Bills and the Lions. The Bills' second straight week playing in Detroit. Brandon Beane had a press conference last weekend or an interview last weekend prior to the game. The Bills actually went back to Buffalo for this game, and then they're going to come back to Detroit. They kept everything in Detroit, but they went back to Buffalo, and then now they're going back to Detroit. And the reason they did that is try to keep it as normal as possible. Also, with the situation being in, to find a practice field, to find a hotel, it would take a whole lot to do that, on the move there. A lot of times teams plan it out in advance. Like if an East Coast team has 2 West Coast games, they'll stay out west. Like let's say they got a game against the Chargers and a game against the Rams. There's no reason to go back. There's no reason to fly out to play the Rams, to fly all the way back to go fly out to the same stadium and play the Chargers. No reason to do that. So you see that sometimes. You see some teams when they play overseas, they'll leave at the beginning of the week and practice out there, but that's all coordinated. So the Bills actually went back home, and now they're going back to Detroit. So at the end of this, if there is no overtime, it will be 8 quarters of football and less than a week played in Detroit. So Bills are getting used to Ford Field. But the Bills come into this game 7-3. The Lions come into this game 4-6, but they're hot. And this is a big game for the Lions. It's going to be interesting. So the Bills are 9.5-point favorites. I've seen this spread move from 9 to 9.5 to 10, now back down to 9.5. I like it at 10, especially if you're betting on it, but it will be interesting. The over-under set for this game is all the way up to 54. Expect a high-scoring game between these two offenses, and this game, obviously, tomorrow is the first one of 3, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS. This is going to be an interesting game. Look, I'll tell you this. Call me crazy, but if the Detroit Lions find a way to win this game, they could be in conversation to make the playoffs in the NFC. It's not crazy to say. Again, that's if they win this game. If they lose this game and they fall to 4-7, their season's over. But if they win this game and they get to 5-6, you have Jacksonville next week, which is winnable. You get to 6-6. Minnesota's going to be tough. Okay, 6-7. You beat. So Minnesota's 6-7. Jets, biased opinion maybe. That's a tough one though. 6-8. But then your final 3 games, Panthers, Bears, Packers. You've already beaten the Packers. You've already beaten the Bears. 2 winnable games. I don't care that it's in Lambeau. The Packers stink. Who even knows who's playing in Week 18? If they win those 3 games, they get to 9-8. I mean, it's not crazy. Now, obviously, if they lose this game, they're 4-7. You beat Jacksonville, okay, 5-7. You lose the 2 games to the Vikings. Jets 5-9. You finish below 500. You don't make it. Now, if you lose this game and maybe you beat Jacksonville and Minnesota and you go on this incredible run, but 5-6. If you get 5-6, you have a chance because the bottom of the NFC, again, I'm not saying they're going to make it, but it's quite interesting because the bottom of the NFC right now, 6-4 Seahawks, and it's the 6-5 Commanders. Right now, the Lions with a win in this game, and if the Falcons lose this week, and if the Commanders lose this week, they would be 5-6, 1 game behind the Commanders at the number 8 spot. 1 game behind. So that's the crazy part of this game. As a matter of fact, the Falcons and the Commanders play each other, so they both can't lose this week. But if one of those teams loses, especially if it's the Falcons, and the Lions win this game, they'd move up. So enough talking about the Lions, but it is interesting to talk about that. Now, I don't think they'll win this game. I know all that. I don't think they will. But I think the Lions do keep this game competitive. Look, they're playing for their coach, okay? Dan Campbell has got this team fighting. He's got them competing. I do think this is a closer game than expected. I really do. But at the end of the day, again, when we talk about talent, the Bills have a lot more talent. I think the Bills are still kind of a little frustrated. Like, they got off to a slow start last week against Cleveland. Then they started to dominate. It's like the Bills kind of need one of those games where it's just like 4 quarters of domination. Now, I don't think this is going to be a 31-10 game. I actually think the Lions cover the 9.5, especially if it gets to 10. I definitely put some money on that. I obviously don't bet. But for the people out there who do and who can, I would definitely make that bet. But I haven't seen, like, the Bills, again, they started off last week slow. They lost, obviously, the Vikings, lost to the Jets back-to-back. Last week, they started off slow. Like, there hasn't been that game where they've, like, fully played 4 quarters of football in a couple weeks, right? There hasn't been. So I feel like this could be that game where they really put together 4 good quarters, come out, score early and often, put up some points, and win the game. And again, more talent. As much as the Lions are that kind of fun, interesting team that you could talk yourself. The Lions are one of those weird teams that you could talk yourself into them finishing the year at a 6-11 record, and you could also talk yourself into them winning 9 games. They're just that type of team. You never really know what you're going to get you never know what you're going to get on a week in and week out basis. I'm going to take the Bills in this game. However, I think it's closer than a lot expected, Give me the Bills. 31-24, Bills win. They win, but don't cover. But the Bills get the win. I'll take the over on the over-under 54. They win, but do not cover. First Thanksgiving Day game of the day. Should be quite interesting, but give me the Bills. All right. Next up, we got the Giants and the Cowboys. Giants 7-3. Cowboys 7-3 as well. Cowboys open up this one as a big 9.5-point favorite. Over-under set at 45.5. Tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. You got a CBS, Fox, NBC game all lined up for tomorrow. Look, this game on paper looks like it's really good. Two 7-3 teams in Dallas. Thanksgiving, always a good matchup. Giants, Cowboys, division rivalry. I think I don't know about this one. As much as I want to see three good games on Sunday, I think the day game, I think the Bills-Lions game is going to be good. I think the Lions are going to keep it interesting. And I think the Vikings-Patriots game is going to be good. But this game, I don't know about that. I mean, the Giants are just loaded with injuries. As much as you think that, you know, if the Giants can find a way to just have that kind of one of those tough, gritty performances again, the Giants, I'm not saying they're the Lions. They obviously lost the Lions. Giants got caught looking ahead last week. It's a trap game. Say whatever you want. It's a trap game, right? Because they had Dallas on Thursday. They had a winnable game on Sunday. Now, if the Lions go out and beat Buffalo, okay, maybe it wasn't a trap game. Maybe it's just the fact that the Lions are hot and they're playing good football, and maybe they're a good football team, and that's the bottom line. Maybe we'll have to admit to that. I don't know if that happens, right? Not saying that's going to happen, but if that happens, maybe we will have to admit for that. But for right now, it was a trap game, and man, oh man, the Giants are banged up, and the Giants are one of these teams that cannot afford all of these injuries. They just can't because they don't have enough depth. They barely have enough talent, and this is just the brutal way. This is just the basic way of putting it. The bottom line is they don't have enough talent to lose all these players, and they don't have enough depth rather to lose all these players. Nor do they barely have enough talent on the starters. There's not a great amount of talent just within the starters on the roster, let alone the depth. They are banged up. It's on the road. It's Thanksgiving in Dallas. The Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I don't know the full record of the play every year, but it's too hard. Again, talent. Like the Giants are so banged up with injuries. Cowboys are healthy. They're good. They're the better team. They're at home. Give me the Cowboys here. And to be honest with you, I don't really think this is close. I think the Cowboys cover the 9.5. I'm going to take the Cowboys 31-13. I don't really think this is close. Giants are way too banged up. Cowboys are going to win big. Give me Dallas at home, 31-13. I'll take the under on the over-under 45.5, and I'll take the Cowboys covering and getting the win at home on Thanksgiving. All right, and the final game of the day tomorrow, 8:20 p.m. Eastern, NBC. This will be the nightcap of the three. You'll have the Vikings and the Patriots. Vikings come into this one 8-2. Patriots come into this one 6-4. Vikings 2.5-point favorite. The over/under set at 42.5. Something's got to give in this game, right? The Vikings coming off of a massive win not a massive win. Well, yeah, coming off a massive win against the Bills. They blew it last week against the Cowboys, losing 40-3. Something's got to give in this game. Vikings are at home. They get New England. But what I mean is Vikings are coming off of a awful loss, losing 40-3, and then they welcome in a hot New England team that in its last 6 games is 5-1. Last 6 games, the Patriots are 5-1. In the last 6 games, they've won 5 of their total 6 games they have all year. They're on a 3-game win streak to break it down even more. So something's got to give. Is it a Vikings team that comes off frustrated off of a loss on Sunday, a short week to bounce back? Or is this New England team hot, 5-1 in their last 6, 3-game win streak coming off of a last-second punt return against the Jets that I don't really want to talk about? What gives in this game? I'm going to take the Vikings, okay? And I'm going to take the Vikings because, again, they're at home. I don't know if I fully buy this New England team right now. I understand they're 6-4. I understand they beat the Jets. But it's like, their offense isn't very good. they still have some questions, at the receiver spot. They're still not overly talented. And I think the Vikings are going to come out in this game, and I think they're going to be extremely, extremely frustrated. I'm not taking anything away from New England, but that loss last week against the Jets could have easily went another way. And that loss, the other loss against the Jets, too, the Jets easily could have won those two games with better quarterback play. So you're going to get better quarterback play, assuming Kirk Cousins bounces back. There's a lot more talent on that Vikings roster. They're at home. And again, 40-3, that's embarrassing. It's one thing to lose 31-10 or 28-7. 40-3. Losing that badly after winning one of the craziest games that we've ever seen is bad. This Viking team is hollering and yelling and screaming and kicking to get back in action. And I think this is a great opportunity for them to beat Belichick, beat him at home, get back on track, and then next week you get the Jets at home, which obviously will be an interesting one depending on, how Mike White's doing at quarterback. So this is a big opportunity for the Vikings to get this win, get to their 9th win of the year, and then after this, you got the Jets, then you have Lions, Colts, Giants, Packers, Bears the rest of the play. Jets are the toughest opponent left on their schedule. So it's a big opportunity. You win this game, there's a good chance the Lions can go 12-5, 14-3. There is that chance because outside of the Jet game, Lions, Colts, Jaguars, Packers. Now, obviously, Lions are competitive. Those are all, the rest of those outside, obviously, are I would assume, very winnable. Lions are competitive, obviously, but I don't even want to talk about it. One game here, I'm going to take Minnesota. I'm going to take the Vikings at home. Give me the Vikings 31-21. Vikings get the win. I will take, 28-17 Vikings win. Cover the 2.5. And Vikings will get the win. And I'm going to take the over-under 42.5. Vikings get the win and cover. So my 3 games, Bills, Lions, I got the Bills. Giants, Cowboys, I got the Cowboys. Vikings, Patriots, I got the Vikings. And, and then obviously on Sunday and Monday, you have the rest of the NFL games on after tomorrow. So it should be good. Looking forward to it. Alrighty, so what a day it's been. What a day it's been in the world of the NFL, specifically the world of the New York Jets. Obviously, as the New York Jets have benched Zach Wilson, right move, good move, and let's see it, Mike White. Let's see it in action and go out there and ball out. So we shall see how it all plays out. As always, I will be off tomorrow. Thanksgiving. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy it with family and friends, whoever you celebrate with. Enjoy the football as well. Should be good. Looking forward to it. And I will see you all back here on the flip side, back on Friday for my Football Friday podcast, getting you ready for another full, exciting weekend of football. But enjoy Thanksgiving. I will see you all back here on Friday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.